Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Once upon a time, an acharya who went in search of a guru traveled far to the north and reached the banks of Narmada. Narmada river in India is the only spinster. She is not married. All other rivers, if you deify them, Ganga ji was married, Yamuna ji was married, Krishna was married, Godavari was married. Narmada is a spinster. She is still a virgin. Govind Bhagwat Pad. Govind Bhagwat Pad, who is he? Remember Shankaracharya? Remember Gauda Padacharya? Remember Govinda Bhagwat Padacharya? So, like that, teacher's teacher, this Govinda Bhagwat Pad was sitting on the banks of the river, deep in meditation, engrossed in meditation. And at that time, the river was full and it was in spate, as if going to flood all the adjoining villages and townships, etc., etc. And it had not flooded anything yet, but it was on the brink of flooding everything. And at that time, all the people from those villages and towns and everything, they came to Govind Bhagwat Pada with the hope that he will protect them from the river, thinking that he is a great person, knowing that he is a great person because he used to be there only, and protect them from the floods. But he was totally disidentified from the body and in meditation. So the word used here is nishtai. Nishtai means he was totally oblivious of his body, just like we are oblivious of our body in sleep or in samadhi. So he was totally oblivious of his body in the meditation. And when the people started requesting him, there was no response, there was no communication possible with him. And as this was going on, suddenly they saw a young boy next to Bhagwat Pada, Govinda Bhagwat Pada. And this young boy, he was very, very effulgent, very, very lustrous, and very, very with full of tejas, full of shine on his face and his demeanors and his, the way he came across. And the moment the people's eyes fell upon this young boy, suddenly they felt a deep surge of devotion towards this young boy. They felt that their prayers will be answered by this fellow. And that he would rescue them from this coming disaster, and therefore, instead of calling out Govind the Bhagavad Pad, who was in meditation, they started calling out to this young boy, not knowing who he was, what his name was. At that time, this child, the child Acharya, if we can call him, the moment he heard the prayers and the requests of all these people gathered around him and his guru, immediately he put his hand up. One way was, okay, be quiet, all of you, I heard you. But this hand was not facing the people, it was facing the river, as if telling the river, enough. Don't cross the boundary. Remain in your maryada. And having raised his hand up, as if the signal that the whole river then poured into his kamandalu that he was carrying. Kamandalu is a small pot which the sannyasis carry. I carry it on my head, as my head. There's a small pot which is for food also, for going to toilet also, for drinking water also, for everything it is used one only. So the river obeyed, listened to the young Acharya, and became quiet. And quiet where? Quiet with inside his kamandalu. And seeing this, the people were very happy and overjoyed that their disaster has been the upcoming disaster has been diverted. And at that time, Govind Bhagavad Padacharya, he came out of his meditation, came out of his body disidentification. Now he became body identified. And as soon as he saw the young Acharya, he thought, we have been waiting for this child only, and went near the child and embraced him. And the young Acharya embraced him. Acharya fell at his feet, and he fell at his feet. So this is the moment before this young boy had met Govinda Padacharya. This is the first time he is meeting, because this young boy has started his journey from Kerala and in search of his guru. He knows where the guru he is going to find, and he keeps asking, and eventually he comes to know that the person who can teach what he wants to learn is here on the banks of Narmada. So he has come to this Acharya. So even though the Acharya, so here we can say that the young Acharya fell at the feet of the Govinda Padacharya, or we can say Govinda Padacharya fell at the feet of Acharya. Why? Because Govinda Padacharya was a great Mahatma, and he could see the truth of this young boy. He could see that this young boy is none other than the incarnation of Lord Shiva, and therefore he fell at his feet. But the avatar, whenever the avatar comes, even if it is Krishna Bhagwan or Ramchandra ji, if there is someone elder, they touch their feet. We saw Krishna also touching Kunti's feet, Dhritarashtra's feet, Yudhishthira's feet. He always touched because he was younger than Yudhishthir. Even though he knows that he is the infinite divine self, yet he touched the feet because that is the norm on the earth, to give respect to the elders. Similarly, this young boy, even though he is born in the human body. And why the Lord has taken form in the human body? For sport, for Leela. It is the Leela. And therefore, seeing this, young boy, Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya asked the young boy as to who he is, and the young Acharya, he wanted to tell direct. He didn't want to tell straight away. Oh Guru Maharaj, I am the incarnation of Lord Shiva. So how do you say if someone asks? If you ask a realized master, tell me who you are, he will not say, aham ekameva dvitiya, I am established in the truth, don't mess with me. He doesn't speak like that. Either he will remain silent, or he will say, I am a devotee of the Lord, or he will say, I am the disciple of my Guru. Vedanta has to be practiced in your inside. Outside, devotion has to be practiced. Don't teach, but we do exactly the opposite, like I'm doing right now. I'm teaching you Vedanta, but practicing devotion inside. Nah, not that way. We have to practice Vedanta on ourselves and devotion with others. Love others. So here, Bhagavad Padacharya, even though he could directly tell him that I am the incarnation of Lord Shiva, I am the avatar who has, that I am the avatar who has come to propagate the Advaita Shiva Tattva, Advaita Brahman, and who is this Advaita? He is the source of everything. And instead of saying that directly, he answered the question of Govinda Bhagavad Pad indirectly. Rather than saying I am the incarnation. And he answered that question in 10 shlokas. And these 10 shlokas which came out as the answer, they are called as Dasha Shloki. Dasha, 10. Shloka, verses. So 10 verses. And he ended each shloka with tadeko avashishtaha shiva kevaloham. That means that avashishtaha means what is remaining after rejecting everything as Maya. So who am I? The teacher asked, tell me who you are. He didn't say I am the avatar of Lord Shiva. He is saying I am that avashishtaha. Every shloka is ending with this word. I am that who is left behind after you have removed the Maya. Indirectly he is telling. Because one without a second cannot speak. What do you call? Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. That kevala principle, that kevala tattva, that one without a 7 years is tad ekaha avashishtaha shivaha kevaloham. So then kevalam, here kevalam means that which is pure, that which is kevala, that which is unmixed with any impurity. And what is impurity? Impurity of objectivity, impurity of otherness, impurity of the duality, the sense of otherness. That impurity is not there. That is kevala. And then and only that which is so pure can be eka, means that which is one without a second, because there is no second. If there is second, then it cannot be kevala. So tadeko vashishtah Shiva kevaloham, and that which is kevala, that which is avashishtaha, that which is ekaha. So ekaha, one. Avashishtaha, that which is left behind after the Maya has been removed. Kevaloham, that which is unmixed, uncorrupted, uncontaminated by duality or multiplicity or objectivity or otherness. And that has to necessarily be Shivaha, the auspicious one. This is how he is answering that the question of Govinda Bhagavad Pad, and each verse, each of these 10 verses concludes with this verse, Tadeko Vashishtah Shiva Kevaloham. Tadeko Vashishtah Shiva Kevaloham. In other words, he is reminding us that you are that. And in this manner, Tad ekaha, again, I am that which is one with the form of Lord Shiva. And Shiva, who is Lord Shiva? Who is Shiva? Shiva means he who is auspiciousness. And in this way, he answered the teacher. He answered Govinda Bhagavad Pad. So, this is the story, how this Dashashloki came about. And now, before we get into it, remember our Shankaracharya, who he is, and Govinda Padacharya, he is the teacher, and we are getting we give a diksha. Diksha is what? Initiation. What is the diksha? Brahmachari diksha. Then one is initiated into Gayatri mantra. So that is Brahmachari diksha. Then there is Grahastha ashram diksha, when you do Panigrahan and the priest says the mantras, and now before you were bachelor, now you are married. Then there is Sannyasa Diksha. In Sannyasa Diksha, again that is an initiation. And in initiation, what happens? Normally, when we see Diksha is given from outside, some ceremony is there, some ritual is there, and hair is cut and Janeu is put for brahmachari and the grahastha people. But for sannyasis, the Janeu is taken away, the hair is done mundan, etc. And exactly the same way, this outer rigmarole is just like, outer rigmarole is like, if a bud is there and you want to bring out the beauty of the bud, will you be able to pull the petals open and make a flower? Can you? You will destroy the flower, isn't it? If there is an egg and you feel that inside the chook is moving, and you start taking some sharp thing and you break open the shell, will you get a chicken? You will get half cooked chicken, half ready chicken. You will destroy that life because you opened it up before its time. And that is the beauty of a teacher. The teacher initiates when the disciple is fully ripe. If I pull a mango off a tree when it is not fully ripe, I will have to put pressure. Nowadays, lemon season, you try in your garden. if the lemon is not fully ripe, you have to pull hard on the tree. But when the lemon is ripe, you just hold it, turn it a little bit, and it comes in your hand. Same thing with mango. Exactly the same way. The teacher, a true teacher, is he who gives diksha. Here we are talking about this young boy. So, I'm sorry, here we are talking about the diksha as a principle. So, diksha is given to a first way is to recognize that this student is ripe, so that that student doesn't go the wrong way. The student either part A, that the student doesn't go the wrong way, the student doesn't fall back into old habits, or B, the recognition that this student has ripened completely. And the moment teacher sees that he has ripened, he gives him the diksha into sannyas. So this is part 1, part 1A, part 1B. Now part 2, why diksha is given. Diksha is given to a student so that the student becomes ripe. First, it was a recognition of a ripe student, and therefore diksha was given. The teacher feels blessed. The teacher feels grateful that he is getting the opportunity to give the diksha to such a person. For example, Sandipani, Rishi Sandipani gave diksha to Krishna. He knew who Krishna was. Sage Vashishta gave diksha to Ramchandraji. He knew who Ramchandraji was. So it is a honor. It is with great gratitude that the Lord has given them the opportunity to initiate him. And the second part now is in the worldly sense, where a student is committed, a student is steadfast in his sadhana, and the teacher recognizing that this fellow is a committed one. He's not an avatar. He's not a part of God in that sense, like he's not an incarnation. So that this student gets further and reaches the ultimate goal in his life. Therefore, to protect him from falling, to protect him from the society, to protect him from himself, diksha of sannyas is given, so that he starts living. He was already living a disciplined life, but as a brahmachari, there are some attachments. As a brahmachari, you are a brahman, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. As a brahmachari, you can go back to your parents. As a brahmachari, you can get married and leave the brahmachari stage. But once you have been given the sannyasa diksha, you cannot go back to the parents. You cannot go back to to say, I give up my sannyas and I want to go and get married. You cannot do that. That is not allowed. It's not that it's not allowed. People still do it, but it is not right. The institution of brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas, it has to be maintained, and therefore diksha is given to a student so that he is able to break the shell of memories. He is able to break the shell of attachments. He is able to break the shell of old habits, default settings, and grow out into a greater person, into an infinite being that he actually is. That's why the Diksha is given. For that, as a young kid, Brahmachari Diksha, Bhurbhuva Svat Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. For that, the mantra Diksha is given, whether Om or Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram or Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. All these are given, mantras are given so that we can pierce through the shells of memories which bind us to the gross plane, gross or the subtle plane, or the causal plane, all the three. We have to break through these. This is why Diksha is given. We have to crack open the old memories and impressions that are keeping us in the default settings, make us do the same thing again and again. That is why teacher is necessary in our life, because he can see where we are going wrong. He can see what sadhana is required by this person. But in case of Adi Shankaracharya, this young boy, 7-8 years old, he was already the avatar of Lord Shiva, Advaita Shiva. And God does not have any impressions. God does not have any mind. If there is no mind, there is no impressions. Now, what Diksha will Govindapad Bhagavad Padacharya will give to this young boy? But Govind Bhagavad Padacharya was clear in his mind, and the mind that the sage Ved Vyas has sent him to give the Diksha to this child only. And there is a purpose that he has to give this child the Diksha, this child only, in order that the greatness of the Advaita Upadesha through a Guru may be known to the world. This is the purpose. We don't know why we are here. We think we are here for birth, growth, study, job, marry, children, then grandchildren, then old age, disease and death. Is that what we are here for? Or is there some higher purpose? Until and unless our mind does not become empty, unless and until our mind doesn't become single pointed, till then we will not become aware of our true purpose. Yes, the true purpose is to realize the truth. But why you are here on this earth? One is to realize the truth. But while you realize the truth, there must be some other job that has to be fulfilled through you on this planet. That you are not clear. Like today's kids, they keep saying, we want to make an impact, we want to make an impact, we want to make an impact. And they don't stick with one job for, no, I'm not learning anything here, resign, find another one. And they find also another one. But as long as we keep searching outside for how to make an impact, we are hitting against a brick wall. We will never find the purpose. The purpose, how to make an impact on this creation? By going within. Find out who you are. Then you will become clear of what your purpose in this creation is. When Yudhishthir was born, Panch Pandavas were born, did they know that they have to fight a Mahabharata war? When they came to Dhritarashtra in Hastinapur, did they know that all their 100 cousins are going to be their enemies? They did not know all this. So each one, Karna has hid, Karna, Surya Putra Karna, he had his own purpose. Yudhishthir had his own purpose. Who never lied, he lied on the battlefield. Karna, who was the eldest of the Pancha Pandavas, he never knew he was a Pandava. He lived like a Sutaputra, more valorous than any of the 5 Pandavas put together. So what is your purpose? So here it is told that Adi Govind Bhagavad Pad, he was sent by Vyasa Maharaj, Maharishi Vedvyas, to initiate. He becomes very clear. Because he's a great master. He knows. He says, I have been sent here to initiate this young fellow so that through him the Advaita Upadesh is spread throughout the world. No Upadesh is taken if it doesn't come from a Guru or from God. So here he is 2 in 1. He is Lord Shiva himself, and he is going to be the Shankaracharya, Bhagavad Pad Shankaracharya. And in this way, so therefore, there and then, Govinda Bhagavad Pad, he gave him sannyas diksha according to the Shastras, and also gave him a Upadesha. And also gave him Upadesh. Now with this we begin the Dashashloki composition. These are the 10 shlokas which Adi Shankaracharya, as a young boy, at the age of 7 or 8, he is, when asked the question, who are you? Asked by Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya, he asks, how do I give it to you? I'll put it on the how do I send it? Communicate. Whiteboard. New whiteboard.
Swamiji, is it the same as Nirvana Dasakam?
No. Okay, let me put it on the whiteboard. Where is it? अरे कहाँ चला गया? अभी तो था. हाँ, whiteboard. New whiteboard. Can you see? I don't know if you can see. It's not clear. How do I make it big? Can you see it? Hello?
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji.
But it has come out wrongly. I'll send it on the WhatsApp afterwards. Today you follow me. Who is putting all these lines? I am putting these lines. How do I delete it? Experimented, but it didn't work. Okay, you can repeat after me. The न भूमिर्न तोयं न तेजो न वायुः न भूमिर्न तोयं न तेजो न वायुः न खं नेन्द्रियं वा न तेषां समूहः न खं नेन्द्रियं वा न तेषां समूहः अनेकान्तिकत्वात् सुषुप्त्येकसिद्धः अनेकान्तिकत्वात् सुषुप्त्येकसिद्धः तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम् तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. I will say the whole thing. न भूमिर्न तोयं न तेजो न वायुः न खं नेन्द्रियं वा न तेषां समूहः अनेकान्तिकत्वात् सुषुप्त्येकसिद्धः तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम् तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. These are beautiful verses, each one a gem of its own. Don't think, oh, this is what Lord Adi Shankaracharya, apply it on yourself. The Shiva is in you, Shankara is in you. It is the self, the consciousness. Na bhumihi, neither the earth, na toyam, nor the water, na tejo, nor the fire, na vayuhu, nor the air, na kham, nor the space, na indriyam, neither the senses, and vanatesham samuhaha, and even if you put all of these things put together, even that I am not. Even that I am not. So I am not the earth, I am not the water, I am not the fire, I am not the air, I am not the space, I am not the senses, and senses also includes the mind. 5 senses plus 6th sense is the mind. So neither the senses, and if you put all these together, even that I am not. Na tesham samuhaha. Then I am not any one of these aggregate, as they. What is the reason? Aneka antikatvat. Each one of them concludes. Antikatvat. Anti means end. They reach their conclusion. They die. Each perception dies after some time. Each thought dies after some time. Each emotion dies after some time. Each concept changes after some time. If I'm seeing you right now, next moment my attention goes to I'm speaking. I'm speaking also. The moment I think I'm speaking, I'm not seeing anymore. My attention is not on seeing. Seeing is dead for that purpose. So aneka antikatvat. Antikatvat, that which concludes, that which is uncertain, that which dies, that which has a conclusion, and all these what we have told before. What is that? Earth, water, air, fire, air, space, uh, senses, mind, intellect, all of them conclude. Does space conclude? Does space end? I'm asking a question.
Time.
No.
Adi Shankaracharya is saying it ends.
It
How-
unmanifests.
Yeah, it's unmanifest, but does it end?
No.
Why? And how?
It's infinity.
Yeah, that is your general perception of the space. Is the space of the gross world the same as the space of the dream world? Does the gross space conclude in order for dream space to begin? Does it or does it not?
No.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't conclude.
It does. You cannot have a dream space in the gross space. You have to have a dream space in order for dream world to come. You need gross space for the gross world to appear. You cannot interchange. You cannot take things from this space into the dream space. Can you? Change your conclusions. So therefore, space also concludes in that sense. Yes, when we look at the physical space, the gross space, Bhutakash, it seems it's infinite. That's why you said it is infinite. But our attention is not only on the Bhutakash. Our attention is on the Bhutakash. There is another Akash called Chittakash. There is another Akash called Chidakash. So as much as the wave is a water, can the wave enter into water? I'm asking.
No, because it's already water.
Yeah, but can the wave enter into water? We know it is already water. So can the wave, which is already water, wanting to realize the water, can it maintain its waveness and realize water?
No.
No.
Can it take its form and enter into water?
No.
No. Exactly the same way here.
Today.
You cannot take the forms of the waking world into the dream space. You understand what we are saying? And what is space? If you want to argue a little bit more. What is space? Emptiness, nothingness. And that you are calling it is an infinite. Space is not an object. Space cannot be comprehended. Space cannot be perceived because it's absence of everything else. And that absence is accommodating everything that is present. See the contradiction. So, water, earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, everything is uncertain, everything is changing, everything is concluding, everything comes into existence and goes out of existence. See? And therefore, I am not any one of them. Why? I don't come and go. I don't conclude. I'm not born and I'm not dying. Body came into existence, body will go out of existence. I'm not born, neither I will go. All the changes are possible in these, the list that we mentioned just now. But I perceive the changes, I am witnessing the changes, but I am not changing. Just like eyes are seeing the changes of color and form, but vision is not changing. Ear is witnessing all the sounds coming and going, but the hearing ability is not changing. The hearing ability is constant, relatively speaking. Tongue is constant, tastes come and go. Skin is constant, touch comes and goes. Mind is constant, thoughts come and go. Intellect is constant, concepts come and go. Consciousness is constant, I comes and goes. Catch this about yourself. And therefore, he says, anekantikatvad sushuptyeka siddhaha. I am proved, however, in the sole experience of deep sleep, meaning you can catch me if you remain awake in the deep sleep. He is saying, Adi Shankaracharya is saying, he is answering the teacher. He has given the Diksha, so he is introducing himself, who he is. He says, I am none of these, but you can catch me in the deep sleep. People will say, how can I catch you in the deep sleep if I am sleeping? No. You have to remain awake, then you will catch me. And how will you catch me? You will catch me as yourself, as the self. How beautiful. 7-year-old, like our Nachiketa in Kathopanishad. What profound questions. And our profound questions are, am I going to get millet dosa or I am going to get rice dosa? Is the bus in Chardham going to be comfortable or it's not going to be comfortable? This is our pathetic condition. The more profound questions our mind entertains, to that extent, just like this Govinda Bhagavad Pad who was sitting there, Nishtai, he was unconcerned about his body. He was unconcerned if flood comes or doesn't come, because he was not identified with the body. Such should be our condition while we are moving in this world, that we are unconcerned about what happens to the body. Why? Our mind is not available to the body. Then where is the mind available? To the profound truths, contemplating on the higher, taking the name of the Lord, seeing the glory of the divine throughout the world, attentive of the consciousness that he is, and the same consciousness is expressing in and through all the beings. This is profound thought. Profound thought is not, this is my grandchild, this is my child, this is my disease, this is my medicine. This is not profound thought. Profound thought is where multiplicity dissolves and unity is suspected. Unity is suspected. That is profound thought. So what is that? What is that me? Who am I? I am that one who is left behind in the deep sleep when all the thoughts have gone away. That one Tadeko avashishtaha Shiva kevaloham. That one, that residue, that auspicious, the only one I am I. So tad, that ekaha, that one, avashishtaha, that which is left behind, Shivaha, that auspiciousness, that tad kevaloham, that one alone am I. This is his introduction of himself to his teacher Govinda Bhagavad Pad. How beautiful! देखो, न भूमिर्न तोयं न तेजो न वायुः न खं नेन्द्रियं वा न तेषां समूहः अनेकान्तिकत्वात् सुषुप्त्येकसिद्धः तदेकोऽवशिष्टः शिवः केवलोऽहम् तदेकोऽवशिष्टः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. So this is the first. Now another 9 to go. We'll read the next one. Follow. न वर्णा न वर्णाश्रमाचार धर्मा न वर्णा न वर्णाश्रमाचार धर्मा न मे धारणा ध्यान योगाद योपि न मे धारणा ध्यान योगादयोऽपि अनात्माश्रयाहं ममाध्यासहानात् अनात्माश्रयाहं ममाध्यासहानात् तदेकोऽवशिष्टः शिवः केवलोऽहम् तदेकोऽवशिष्टः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. Continues, he says न वर्णा न वर्ण न वर्ण आश्रम आचर न आचर न धर्म. So no varna, I do not belong to any caste. Caste means varna. Varna is based upon what? Here it says, in English it says caste, but it is very stupid word to use. It creates so many divisions in the society. Varna, there is no direct translation of Varna in English. Varna means the Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. They have come from the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And these Varna means color. These colors come from what? They come based upon how much one is purified. So Shudra is, if you want to use the word, Shudra is black in the sense impure, no etiquettes, no cleanliness, no shauch. Vaishya little bit clean, Kshatriya more disciplined, Brahmana absolutely disciplined. Therefore, Brahmana is white, Kshatriya is red, Vaishya is in between red and black with a little bit of white, and the Shudra is again. So does it mean that they remain there? No. Based upon their knowledge and based upon their actions, one can change himself from Shudra to Kshatriya, Shudra to Vaishya, Vaishya to Kshatriya, Kshatriya to Brahmana. And as the purification happens, automatically the urge to know the divine, to merge into the divine, that also happens. So we see many great Mahatmas in India. Some are from the Brahmana Kula background, some are from the Kshatriya background, like Raja Janak, he is a Kshatriya. Ramakrishna Paramahans, he is a Brahmin. Vaishya, Surdas, sorry, not Surdas, Kabir Das, he is a Vaishya. And from Shudra community also, they were, who is this? Narsimha Saraswati, Narsim from Gujarat, Mirabai's guru. He was a mochi, he was a cobbler. See? Nobody knows what is the caste of Gajanan Maharaj. He was found on a heap of garbage, feeding the dog and eating himself. For many people, he was a Shudra. But such saints, they don't fall into any category because they have transcended all the categories. Na varna, na varnashrama. Varnashrama, then brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. Neither we fall into this. He's saying, neither I am Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, nor I am a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha or sannyasi. See, in Punjabis also, in Sikh religion, which came out of our Sanatan Dharma only, and if you read the Guru Granth Sahib, everything about Ram and Eknath Maharaj and Krishna and Gopal and Radha, all this is there. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he condensed all the knowledge of the entire India and put it into the Guru Granth Sahib. And they made it into and it has become a different religion because 300 million people are following it today, so it has a force and backing. But in the Sikh religion, when you become Gurmukh, when you get initiated, when you, उनको बोलते हैं अमृत चखना, when they taste the nectar. And what is that nectar? Amrit Chakna, I think the water from the golden, from the pond, you know, the कुछ तो उनका है, मेरे को पता करना पड़ेगा क्या है, तो अमृत चखना बोलते हैं उसको. And then they become Gurmukh. And in that Gurmukh, they have to give up all, because many of my friends who are Sikhs, their parents or their uncles, they are Hindu. Because the eldest son was made to be the Sikh. He was asked to wear the pagdi. Others didn't. Only one. And who are these families? They are Hindu families. So my friends, his uncle, he is a Hindu. They are Brahmin. So his grandfather's eldest son became Sikh. Then his children became Sikh, but all their cousins, they are Hindu. See the funny part? But once you have the Gurmukh, when you get initiated, remember we talked about Diksha here before. So once you get Diksha, these Sikhs, then you should not select a Brahmin girl or a Brahmin boy or a Kshatriya girl or a Kshatriya boy. You cannot see that he's coming from a lower class or a higher class. You have to go beyond everything. Similarly, here Adi Shankaracharya is saying, na varna ashrama, and neither, so these castes are not for me, nor the observances and duties associated with each caste and associated with the various stages of life. Caste is, here we said, Varna, Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. What is the duty of Brahmin? to pursue the truth, to teach the truth, to practice the truth in his life. Kshatriya, he mobilizes the masses. He is the leader. He rules. He controls. He administers. He provides. What is the job of a Vaishya? To produce. The farming, the various professions. That is Vaishya. Because without him producing, how will the society sustain? So Brahmins are always less, Kshatriyas are a little bit more, Vaishyas are many. But the lazy fellows, the Kshudras, they are the maximum. So here says that I am not attached to or compelled to observe any observances of Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or the 4 stages of life, and neither the duties nor the norms. And Name dharana dhyana yogadayah api. Neither I am not even dharana, dhyan, samadhi and yoga are not for me. So I don't have to do any. See, dharana means what? Intermittent focus. When you are trying to focus, but it is still intermittent. Dhyan means continuous focus. Samadhi means that focus has led to absorption. Yoga means union. Union means a presupposition that I am separate, therefore I am seeking union. Isn't it? It's a presupposition. He says, none of these are for me. Because dharana requires effort. The dhyan requires effort. If I do that, then absorption will come. And union of what? Union of the Jivatma with the Paramatma. All these ideas, all these concepts are not for me. Why? I'm already that. Name dharana dhyana yogadayapi yopi anatma ashraya aham madhyasahanat. So here he says, so the steadying of the mind, concentration, which is dhyan, and communion, which is the yoga, all these various stages are not for me. Here he says that anatma is that which is other than the self. What is other than the self? Other than the self is the sense of I. And this sense of I has taken ashraya, aham ashraya. And what it has taken ashraya, where has the I taken refuge of? Ashraya means refuge. It has taken refuge of what? Adhyasahanat. Here it means that everything that is that is not self, it has taken the ashraya of anatma. It has taken the refuge of anatma. Who? The I. And therefore I have abandoned all of that. Will that appear? Will the I appear? It will. Will the anatma appear? Yes, it will. Question is, do I identify with it or do I give it zero value? So here he says, for this mistaken sense of I and mine, which rested on the non-self, which is which is the basis of which is the anatma, and I have abandoned them, have been abandoned, and therefore tadeko avashishtah shivah kevaloham. Therefore, that one, that which is remaining after abandoning everything, giving up varna, ashrama, dharana, dhyan, yoga, anatma, aham, mama, everything has been given. So this is aham mama adhyasahanat. Now I get the word. I was trying to work out what is the word. So anatma is not self, ashraya is refuge, aham is I, mama is mine, adhyasa is imagination that I and mine are real, which are the basis of which is anatma. And in this way, I am the one, I am the one which is left behind, I am the auspicious, I am the one alone. And this way, this is the second introduction in the second verse that Adi Shankaracharya, the young 7-year-old Batuk, who is the incarnation of the Advaita Shiva, he is mentioning it to Govind Bhagavad Padacharya, who has initiated him into sannyas. How beautiful. न वर्णा न वर्णाश्रमाचार धर्मा न मे धारणा ध्यान योगादयोपि अनात्माश्रयाहं ममध्यात् सहानात् तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम् तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. We'll conclude here. Enough for you to contemplate and me to contemplate for today. And then next class we'll take 2, 3 and tomorrow we'll continue on this. Contemplate on these for next 24 hours. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.